Hello, all of you bold, beautiful, brilliant, and highly evolved souls. I'm Davina, and today I'm going to talk about cognitive dissonance. And this is really a revelation. It is so important to understand what this is and how it has affected your relationship with your narcissistic parents. So, cognitive dissonance is when we experience an inconsistency or incongruence between what we believe, our beliefs, and also a behavior or some information. So, when we experience this kind of inconsistency, then we experience some uncomfortable feelings, distress, anxiety. Um, it just causes this psychological distress. And so, in order to relieve this stress, what we do is we try to then create some kind of consistency, which means we need to change one of those items so that they match up. Um, and so, there's a story about sour grapes, and this is sort of a fable. And this fox really wanted these grapes from a tree, and he thought, oh, these are going to be great and whatever. But he couldn't get the grapes. I can't remember exactly how the story goes. And so he tells himself this story that, oh, they were sour anyway. It's a way to relieve the uncomfortableness of the disappointment or the sadness that he actually felt, but instead of feeling those feelings, made up a story so he could just sort of go on with his fox life. So for narcissistic abuse, the belief that we hold as a child, that I believe that we are hardwired to believe, is that when we come into the world, our parents, our caregivers, they are going to love us. They are going to meet our needs. They are going to attune to us, to our needs, to our feelings, and they are going to, give us sensitive caregiving and love. And so when we come into our family, and and I think the initial stage of being a baby is kind of the love bombing. It's those first several months when parents, even narcissistic parents, like they love bomb the baby. They're just, oh, it's so perfect and so beautiful, isn't she beautiful and wonderful? And they treat you really well, I think. And then when the child hits, as soon as they start walking, they're getting to be a toddler and starting to exert their independence. They're starting to assert their needs, their desires. And that's, I believe, where the narcissistic parent then kind of, flips into, and the love bombing is over, or mostly over. This is really complicated, but I hope you stick around because this is just so key, I think, to tying in also how the self-blame works. And so then you start to experience after that your parent, wait a minute, they're not behaving in loving ways. They're actually being, of course, as a child, you don't have the language, but you're going, they're being mean to me, or they're not being nice to me right now, or they're ignoring me. Why aren't they paying attention to me? And so you need a story in order to, because these things don't go together. I believe that my parents should be loving and kind and empathetic. And then suddenly, but wait a minute, there's also the reality of what's happening. The behaviors and the information that I'm getting is that they're not nice. They're not doing kind things. They're not empathetic with me. And so this creates this anxiety, this tension, this inner tension. So the child has no other choice. They cannot leave, obviously. They're stuck in this family. Their only choice is to create a story. And quite often, especially I think for the scapegoat, is that we create a story that it's me. It must be me. That's why they're behaving this way. That's why, it just justifies their behavior. So if you it's like taking on the responsibility for their bad and abusive behaviors. So you say, it must be me. There's something wrong with me. I'm bad. I'm wrong. I'm not good enough. I must be inadequate. And so when we take that story on, it actually relieves the cognitive dissonance or the tension that we are experiencing. Because now we can have some also false hope, because we can think, well, if I just do the right thing, or if I just become the right person, whatever I think my narcissistic parent wants, then they'll be able to love me, and then they'll accept me as I am. Of course, as I am is not really true, because you're then playing a false self. But anyhow, so you can see how this self-blame becomes, your justification and your rationalization, in order to stay in this family. Because if you were to say, well, wow, my parents are really abusive and I should leave, but you can't leave. So there's really no other option but to, to create this false narrative. And we really believe this false narrative, and it seems believable, especially since our parents are treating us as if we are worthless. So, it's a really, not only does it, our parents are reinforcing that by, telling us in many ways and many of their behaviors that we are wrong, that we are inadequate. And so, yeah. So yeah, we believe this false narrative that we have a happy family, and that we are the shameful, worthless, inadequate one, defective one. And this, we really want to protect this story, because we don't have any other options. Also the intermittent reinforcement that narcissists do as well also creates more of this sort of cognitive dissonance and confusion, because the one minute they are again being, oh, they seem to be being nice in this moment, and wow, they're kind of caring for me, and we're having fun, we're reading a nice story, and you start to feel like maybe you have a connection, and then 10 minutes later again they're maybe ignoring you or insulting you or criticizing you, and it flips back and forth. And so yeah, it can be very extremely confusing for the child. And yeah, it's just a very difficult, thing to wrap one's head around, all of this, really, to understand how the self-blame was in fact a sort of a like a protection. And not only that, but we kind of had to go along with the narcissist's reality. The narcissist was saying, you know by the many ways, your feelings are wrong, you're wrong, your preferences are wrong. Basically, they're constantly telling you that there's something wrong with you, which is the exact opposite of validation. They're negating you, erasing you day by day. And where was I going with this? So yeah, I need to take a breath here. But anyway, this is our way of avoiding these very, very painful feelings as well. To face, who wants to face the fact that my parents don't love me? My parents are not meeting my needs. A child cannot possibly face those kind of difficult feelings without a parent to help them through it. So they have a lot of pain, and yeah, it is a very sad thing that happens to children of narcissistic parents. And this can carry out into your adult relationships, where you go into relationship And probably you've met a narcissist and they're, everything seems great at the beginning. And so you have this belief in your head, you have this story that I'd had this story with my ex-husband, from the very beginning. Oh, he's perfect. He's awesome. He's amazing. He's so cool. He treats me well. And I had this story like really like glued, And then any other behaviors that I noticed, like, oh, he's not buying me a birthday present. Well, I don't know. And I justified that. Oh, it's his culture or whatever. And yeah, so this happens again and again because we've now made this a pattern of instead of just trying to, which is, it's much more difficult to admit the truth and say, oh, my husband's not behaving in a way that feels good for me. It doesn't align with my values and my needs. And so I have to leave, right? Of course, it's very difficult to face the fears and the changes of leaving a relationship. So we stay and we, tell ourselves stories and we justify this person's behavior in order to, again, create that kind of consistency. So we don't have to face maybe what we think is, a more difficult thing, which is, possibly leaving a relationship, a friendship, a job. And I hope this is all making sense to you. I'm just sort of putting all of this together as I've been shedding the self-blame, because I realized that by shedding the self-blame and I think things just start, I feel like just things are just shedding, and like I guess it's my hope that this starts to just crumble, that there's no self-blame, there's not going to be any shame. If there's no shame, there's no fear. And this is anyway what I see is like this this building that had this, was built on these, these false beliefs and this cognitive dissonance, really. Yeah. It's painful. It's extremely painful, as you probably already know. But I always just want to remind you that if you're going through extreme pain, then you're healing and you're going on the right path. And yeah, I will I'll keep you posted here. I just wanted to see if there's anything else I wanted that I missed. Yeah, I think that's all for today. I am wishing you so many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And I am Davina at Boldness Blooming. Thanks for watching.